The shadow of the Witch-king of Angmar has long been the most terrifying omen in the history of the Third Age, a specter of ancient malice that once toppled the North Kingdom and brought the line of Gondor's kings to a tragic, silent end. As the Lord of the Nazgul and the Captain of Despair, he was a spear of terror in the hand of Sauron, a sorcerer whose very voice could stop the hearts of the brave. Opposing this darkness was Aragorn, son of Arathorn, the heir of Isildur, and the long-awaited renewer who carried the destiny of the West upon his shoulders. While history tells us the Witch King fell to the combined courage of a shield maiden and a halfling, the question remains one of the most debated in the lore of Arda. Welcome to Echoes of Middle-earth, where today we're exploring a clash of titans that could have reshaped the fate of the world. What if Aragorn had faced the Witch King in a duel? To understand the weight of such a confrontation, we must first look at the long, bloody history between the House of Isildur and the realm of Angmar. The Witch King's primary purpose in the north was the total destruction of the Dunedain of Arnor, a task he pursued with relentless cruelty for centuries. It was under his shadow that the Tower of Amon Sul was burned, and the line of the kings in the north was driven into the wilderness as wandering rangers. Aragorn was born into this legacy of hidden royalty, raised in Rivendell under the name Estel, with his true identity kept secret to protect him from the many eyes of the enemy. The Witch King was the architect of Aragorn's exile, yet he was also the ghost that Aragorn was destined to lay to rest. A duel between them would not just be a fight for survival, but the final settling of a 3,000-year-old blood feud. The two first crossed paths on the dark slopes of Weathertop, where the Witch King led an assault to recover the One Ring from Frodo. In that desperate hour, Aragorn did not engage in a formal duel, but used his knowledge of the wild and the power of fire to drive the Nine back into the shadows. It was here that the Witch King delivered a wound to Frodo with a Morgul knife, a weapon so cursed that its splinter would have turned a strong warrior of the Big People into a wraith. Aragorn's ability to resist the fear of the Nine and protect the Ring-bearer showed a strength of will that even the wise accounted as a marvel. However, the Witch King did not yet see Aragorn as a rival king. He saw only a ranger of the wild standing in the way of his master's prize. A formal duel would have likely occurred during the siege of Gondor, perhaps at the very gate where the Witch King broke the defenses of the White City. When the gate shattered under the blasting spell of the Black Captain, he rode in as a vast menace of despair. All fled before his face, save for Gandalf the White. Had Aragorn been present in that moment, the confrontation would have been a clash of spiritual authority as much as physical prowess. The Witch King wore a kingly crown upon a hooded head, a mockery of the royalty he had helped destroy. Aragorn, conversely, carried the Flame of the West, the sword Narsil reforged, which had once cut the ring from Sauron's hand. The sight of the sword that was broken would have been a blow to the Witch King's heart, for he knew that its renewal signaled the end of his master's respite. The Witch King's most potent weapon was not his mace or his blade, but dread. His presence caused a madness to fill his foes, and fear fell on even the boldest, so that horse and man gave way. Against this, Aragorn possessed a unique resilience. He was elven wise and had a light in his eyes that few could endure. His strength of will was proven when he mastered the Stone of Orthanc, wrenching the Palantir to his own will and revealing himself directly to Sauron. If Aragorn could withstand the direct gaze of the Dark Lord through a seeing stone, he could likely look into the deadly gleam of eyes within the Witch King's hood without falling into a stupor of terror. Aragorn's very name, Estel, meaning hope, was the spiritual antithesis of the Captain of Despair. However, a duel would have had to contend with the prophecy of Glorfindel. Long ago, after the Battle of Fornost, the Elf Lord had foretold that the Witch King would not fall by the hand of man. The Witch King relied on this as a shield of invincibility, mocking his opponents with the belief that no mortal could harm him. Aragorn was undeniably a man, the chieftain of the Dunedain. but he was also a man of high lineage, whose blood ran nearly true to the kings of the sea. Some have wondered if the prophecy meant any male human or the race of men as a whole. If the prophecy were literal, Aragorn might have found his strokes unable to deliver the final blow, just as the swords of Gondor's soldiers had failed against the Wraith Lord's unseen sinews. Yet Aragorn wielded Anduril, a blade of marvelous workmanship wrought by Telchar in the deeps of time. This sword was not a common tool of war. It was an heirloom of the North Kingdom, traced with runes of the Seven Stars and the Raid Sun. The lore of the Eldar suggests that Western-esque blades were specifically forged with spells for the Bane of Mordor and the Witch-king. When Merry used such a blade to stab the Witch-king from behind, it broke the spell that knit the Wraith's spirit to his form. If Aragorn, a master of both swordcraft and ancient lore, wielded Anduril in a duel, the blade's inherent power might have bypassed the Witch-king's perceived invulnerability. The white fire that blazed from the sword during the Battle of the Pelennor would have been a formidable match for the flames that ran down the Witch-king's blade. A duel on the Pelennor fields would have been a spectacle of light against shadow. The Witch-king would descend upon his winged steed, a creature of an older world that stank and was naked of feather. Aragorn would be mounted on Roarin, his great horse from the north, perhaps leading the charge from the Harland quays. The Witch-king's mace, which shattered Eowyn's shield, would be pitted against the skill of a man who had fought in the service of kings and wizards for over 70 years. Aragorn was more like to Elendil than any before him, and in his hour of wrath, his majesty was revealed to be so great that even the mouth of Sauron quailed before his stare. This suggests that the Witch-king, though a lord of fear, would have recognized in Aragorn a royalty that could not be easily overcome.
If the duel had progressed, it would have been a battle of endurance. The Witch-king was a wraith under the dominion of the Dark Lord, a being who did not die but merely continued through the power of his ring. Aragorn, while mortal, had a lifespan greater than the measure of ordinary men, and his will was stern as stone. We see the potential outcome of such a struggle in the legend of Fingolfin versus Morgoth, where the Elven king delivered 7 wounds to Avala before falling. Aragorn would fight with the same white fury as the Northmen, but he would be facing a captain who rules from the rear and drives his slaves in madness. The Witch-king's tactical retreat from Glorfindel at Fornaust suggests that he was a creature of cunning who would only risk a duel if he felt he had the absolute advantage.
The spiritual consequence of this duel would have been immense. Had Aragorn defeated the Witch-king single-handedly, it might have been seen as a triumph of power against power, the very thing the Valar had sent the wizards to prevent. The actual death of the Witch-king was achieved through pity and the courage of the small, fulfilling the theme that help often comes from the hands of the weak when the wise falter. If Aragorn, the mighty man of arms, had been the one to slay him, it would have been a victory of the high over the shadow, rather than the small hands moving the wheels of the world. Nevertheless, such a duel would have been the ultimate test of the line of Isildur, proving that the crownless had indeed earned the right to be king. In a scenario where Aragorn emerged victorious, the dread of the Nine would have been lifted from the battlefield much sooner. The black tide of Mordor's host would have foundered without its captain, potentially saving the lives of many who fell in the Pelennor, such as King Theoden or the ranger Halbarad. However, the cost of such a duel could have been Aragorn's own life. Even if he had struck the fatal blow, the black breath and the shriveling of the mind that comes from contact with the Nazgul might have proved a wound beyond even his own healing hands to mend. Aragorn's survival was essential for the restoration of the White Tree and the ordering of the Fourth Age. A duel with the Witch-king was a gamble with the very existence of the future kingdom. Ultimately, the confrontation between Aragorn and the Witch-king remained a battle of presence and purpose rather than a duel of blades. Aragorn's victory was in leading the host of the West to the Black Gate, drawing the eye of Sauron away from the true peril in the heart of Mordor. The Witch-king was the captain of our foes, whose despairing cry was the echo of his master's eventual ruin. While we can only imagine the white flame of Anduril clashing with the dark fire of the Morgul Lord, the lore of Middle-earth reminds us that the greatest strength is often found in the most unlikely of places. Aragorn did not need to slay the Witch-king to prove he was a king. He only needed to be the hope that allowed others to do the impossible. The Witch-king's challenge to Arnor, the last king of Gondor, was the moment the monarchy failed. But Aragorn's challenge to the Dark Lord himself was the moment it was reborn. In the vast and airless halls of history, the duel that never happened stands as a testament to the long defeat and the final sudden victory of the West. The Witch-king was a shadow of regret, a creature of an age that was passing, while Aragorn was the dawn of a new spring. Their duel would have been the collision of the world's most tragic past with its most hopeful future. Thank you for joining us for this dive into the what-if legends of the Third Age here on Echoes of Middle-earth. If you want to continue unearthing the hidden lore of the Dunedain and the secrets of the Dark Tower, make sure to like and subscribe as we journey through the stories that define the world of Tolkien. Until the stars of the Vela Circus shine again on our meeting, may your heart stay as unyielding as the shards of Narsil, and your path be lit by the light of the West.